Welcome to the realm of infidelity tales. If you're just joining us, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and show your appreciation for this video by giving it a thumbs up. In just a fleeting moment, we find this spark that ignites our passion to weave even more tales. Kindly show your appreciation for this video, and now let us embark on the tale. Never did I imagine I would encounter such a predicament. In a quaint little town, I was raised, nurturing aspirations of a life filled with simplicity and joy. I wed my college sweetheart, Ryan, in our youth brimming with dreams and aspirations. Though our possessions were few, the bond we shared was a treasure, and it sufficed. At least that was my belief. In retrospect, the signs of what lay ahead have become clear to me. Yet, in that moment, I could not have fathomed it. Upon our arrival at the quaint little house we had chosen to rent, I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Harris, our landlord. The dwelling may have lacked grandeur, yet it belonged to us. It possessed a delightful warmth, a quaint garden, and a charming little backyard that captured my heart. Ryan and I felt a surge of excitement as we embarked on this new chapter in our lives. Mr. Harris was a gentleman of advanced years in the early stages of his 60s. His face radiated warmth, a smile ever present. During our encounters, he was the sort of landlord who would periodically drop by to ensure that all was well with the house. The memory of his first visit to mend the broken fence lingers vividly in my mind. He exhibited remarkable politeness, inquiring if we required anything, and consistently engaging in light conversation about the transformations the neighborhood had undergone through the years. At that time, it barely registered in my mind. He was merely a warm-hearted elder gentleman. Yet, gradually, the tides began to shift. With Ryan's job requiring him to travel more frequently, I discovered that I was increasingly left to my own devices. It was in these moments that I started to perceive Mr. Harris from a new perspective. He would frequently arrive without prior notice, occasionally to inspect the house, other times simply to engage in conversation. Initially, I perceived it as innocuous. Ultimately, he held the title of our landlord. Yet, as the days unfolded, I sensed a subtle transformation in the rhythm of our exchanges. On a serene afternoon, as I tended to my garden in the backyard, Mr. Harris happened to pay a visit. Had started to visit more often, and while I appreciated his presence, there was an unsettling quality to his arrivals that I couldn't quite shake off. His kindness was ever present. Yet beneath it lay an intensity in his gaze that stirred a sense of unease within me. On that distinct afternoon, he lingered longer than he typically would. Our conversation meandered through the weather, lingered on the garden, and ultimately delved into the intricacies of life itself. In those fleeting moments, I started to perceive a distinct shift in the nuances of his demeanor. "Do you find joy in this place?" he inquired that day, his gaze upon me evoking a sense of vulnerability. Uncertainty clouded my response. Certainly, I felt a sense of joy with Ryan. Yet an undeniable distance began to emerge between us, particularly due to his extended hours at work. There were moments when solitude enveloped me, despite his presence in the house. Yet, I found myself reluctant to confess that to Mr. Harris, at least not vocally. I offered a smile and a nod, tempting to dismiss the thought, yet Mr. Harris persisted, refusing to let it fade. At times he remarked, "One can easily overlook the significance of having a confidant, of experiencing the genuine sensation that someone is truly attuned to your words." Words escaped me, yet the manner in which he uttered them sent a chill coursing through me. His words hung in the atmosphere, echoing long after his departure. I dismissed it, convincing myself that it was merely a trivial exchange. Yet, as Mr. Harris frequented my presence, I began to observe nuanced changes in his demeanor. His compliments, once light and carefree, started to bear a significance that felt unfamiliar to me. He would remark on my appearance, noting how well I cared for myself and the meticulous upkeep of the house. Initially, I perceived his actions as mere kindness, yet it quickly became apparent that he was attuned to details that escaped everyone else's attention. On a certain evening, Ryan found himself absent, engaged in the demands of a business trip. On a tranquil night, I found myself nestled on the couch, engrossed in a book, when suddenly the doorbell chimed. Surprised by the unexpected presence, I paused momentarily before responding. As I swung the door open, there was Mr. Harris, a smile gracing his features. "I happened to be in the area," he remarked, "so I thought I'd drop in and check that everything was okay." I offered a courteous smile, retreating slightly to allow him entry. His unannounced visits had become a familiar routine, so I hardly gave it a second thought. He entered the living room, and our conversation unfolded just as it always had. Yet, on this occasion, an unusual tension hung in the atmosphere. His gaze held a certain intensity that sent a shiver down my spine, leaving me feeling uneasy. It was nothing explicit, merely a glance, a prolonged stare, yet it was sufficient to send my heart into a frenzy. During our conversation, Mr. Harris positioned himself nearer to me than he typically would. The distance that once separated us began to dissolve, and his presence grew increasingly tangible, pressing upon me with an undeniable weight. I recall chuckling uneasily at his words, attempting to dismiss the rising unease within me. I reassured myself that his behavior was merely friendly, convincing myself that I was overreacting. Yet, as if attuned to my unease, Mr. Harris shifted. Slightly closer, his tone still warm, yet more personal than usual. "You know," he said, "it's a rare thing to encounter someone like you. A person who truly pays attention, a person who genuinely shows concern." The words appeared harmless at first glance, yet there was an unsettling quality in his tone, a certain inflection that sent a shiver down my spine. I felt the urge to distance myself, to express my discomfort, yet I held back. Instead, I let out a nervous laugh and drew my legs up to my chest, attempting to establish a barrier between us. Even if only in a physical sense. Mr. Harris observed the change in my stance, and for an instant, silence enveloped us. He gazed at me, his eyes gentle. Yet there was an undeniable edge lurking beneath the surface that I couldn't overlook. "I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Your presence is truly valued and recognized. Hannah, you possess a remarkable uniqueness that sets you apart." The way he uttered my name left me momentarily breathless. My heart raced within my chest, leaving me at a loss for words. I yearned to utter something, anything, to shatter the suffocating silence, yet the words eluded me. I felt ensnared in that instant, immobilized and unable to move. Before I had the chance to utter a word, Mr. Harris rose to his feet. I knotted my throat, parched, and observed him as he departed from the house. As the door clicked shut behind him, I released a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. I lingered before the door, my gaze fixed upon it as if time itself had come to a standstill. Grappling with the chaos of recent events, never before had I experienced such a profound sense of conflict within myself. A fragment of my being yearned to confide in Ryan about the turmoil that had been unfolding. Yet another fragment recoiled in shame, gripped by the fear of his potential judgment. I had no intention of creating any issues. I wished to avoid instilling any doubt in him, or, even more concerning, provoking his anger. Yet, as I pondered further, it became increasingly clear that I could no longer dismiss the emotions Mr. Harris was stirring within me. It felt wrong, and I had no desire to foster it. Still, I couldn't dispel the notion that his visits held deeper significance than he revealed. What was I meant to do? With the passage of time, Mr. Harris's visits grew increasingly regular. Whenever he visited, a familiar wave of discomfort and unease washed over me. I attempted to dismiss it, yet it grew increasingly difficult to overlook. He possessed an enigmatic quality that sent my heart racing, leaving me puzzled as to the reason behind it. I understood the necessity of caution, aware that I must prevent any situation from spiraling beyond control. Yet, I sensed that beneath the surface a transformation was quietly unfolding. I was unaware of the profound depths that awaited me. As the days slipped into weeks, the tension between Mr. Harris and myself intensified. I had yet to share with Ryan the peculiar encounters I had experienced with our landlord. A part of me was apprehensive that he might not grasp my intentions, or, even more troubling, that he could become angry and distressed with me. In the end, I was merely attempting to extend a gesture of friendliness, wasn't I? It was merely casual conversation. Nothing beyond that, correct? That was the mantra I repeated to myself whenever Mr. Harris appeared at the house without warning, tempting to dismiss the unease that was steadily creeping within me. Yet, the discomfort had grown too palpable to dismiss any longer. The image of Mr. Harris lingered in my mind, particularly the way his gaze had met mine, and how his fingers had brushed against the armrest of the couch during that singular visit. It felt as though he was reaching out, attempting to forge a bond that transcended the ordinary boundaries of neighborliness or the typical landlord-tenant relationship. I found myself revisiting that moment repeatedly in my thoughts, with each iteration intensifying the tension inside me. On a serene Tuesday evening, I found myself solitary in the kitchen, meticulously chopping vegetables for dinner. Cooking had always been a source of joy for me. Yet tonight it seemed to transform into a burden rather than a solace. My mind wandered, an unsettling sense lingering that an event loomed on the horizon. As I began to sprinkle the spices onto the chicken, the unmistakable chime of the doorbell echoed through the air. My heart fluttered momentarily as I gazed through the kitchen window. I spotted Mr. Harris at the door, his familiar warm smile lighting up his face. It had been a few days since I last laid eyes on him, and while relief should have washed over me, an unsettling knot twisted in my stomach instead. With a swift motion, I dried my hands on the towel, inhaled deeply, and approached the door. "Good evening, Hannah," Mr. Harris greeted with a cheerful tone as I swung the door open. "I trust I'm not intruding upon anything important." "No, not at all," I replied, mustering a smile that felt more like a mask than a gesture of warmth. I moved aside to grant him entry, and he crossed the threshold with an ease that suggested it was the most ordinary act imaginable. He cast a quick look around, his gaze momentarily resting on the kitchen, where I had been busy preparing dinner. "It smells wonderful in here," he remarked, his eyes lingering on the meal I was preparing. I nodded politely, acknowledging the compliment, though uncertainty lingered in my mind about how to reply. "It's merely a straightforward meal for dinner. Nothing out of the ordinary." "You always say that," Mr. Harris chuckled. "But you have a knack for turning the simplest things into something extraordinary." The compliment was pleasant, I suppose, yet it carried a different weight when it came from him. It was unlike the praise I had received from friends, or even from Ryan himself. They carried a certain gravity, as though he perceived something within me that transcended mere concerns of the meal or the dwelling. An unsettling sensation crept over me once more, yet I endeavored to cast it aside. I expressed my gratitude, dismissing it lightly. "Is there anything you require? I take it you've come to inquire about something?" Mr. Harris's expression underwent a subtle transformation. He appeared to pause momentarily before offering his reply. "I was hoping we could have a brief conversation. It has been some time since we last engaged in a meaningful dialogue." To my astonishment, though we often shared polite greetings during his visits, we had yet to engage in a lengthy discussion. I was aware of his frequent presence in the vicinity, yet I hadn't anticipated his desire for a more profound conversation. A surge of anxiety coursed through me. Yet I nodded all the same. "Of course, we can take a moment to sit together." I guided him into the living room. Motioning for him to settle onto the couch, I found myself seated opposite him, in the familiar chair that had become my spot during those evenings when Ryan and I would indulge in our favorite shows. An uncomfortable hush enveloped the room before Mr. Harris broke the stillness, his voice carrying a weight of seriousness I had never encountered in him before. He started off at a leisurely pace. Recently, I found myself reflecting deeply on life and the way it evolves over time. One can easily become ensnared in the routine of daily life, obscuring the true essence of what holds significance. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts as I pondered his direction. "I understand your perspective," I replied with care. "Amidst the hustle and bustle of life, it can be challenging to remember what truly matters." Mr. Harris inclined his head, his gaze probing into my own. "Precisely, yet 'tis equally vital to pause and reflect. Ensuring that we are genuinely experiencing life rather than merely existing in a routine." His words carried an unsettling weight, leaving me at a loss for how to reply. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts as I pondered his implications, and a part of me hesitated to delve deeper into the unknown. "Hannah," he murmured, inclining his body ever so slightly toward her. "It's difficult to articulate, but from the moment we met, I've always appreciated our conversations. They've left a thoughtful impression on me. Countless times I've reflected on our conversations and the manner in which you present yourself. Your remarkable essence is truly beyond words, and my admiration for you runs deep." My breath hitched in my throat. His words carried a gentle warmth, yet they resonated with the weight of a secret unveiled. The manner in which he uttered those words sent my heart into a frantic pace, though not with any sense of delight. A sudden wave of entrapment washed over me, leaving me uncertain of my next move. Thoughts surged through my mind, searching for the right words, anything that could ease the thick tension hanging in the air. I don't know what to say," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you for your kind words, Mr. Harris, but I must inform you that I'm committed to my partner and I value maintaining respectful boundaries in all relationships." He appeared unfazed by what I had said. He reclined in his chair, his gaze fixed on me for a moment, its expression a mystery. "I understand," he murmured, his tone laced with a hint of regret. "I wish to avoid causing you any discomfort, Hannah, yet I cannot ignore the emotions that reside within me." His words surged through me like a jolt of electricity. I had previously listened to him voice his admiration for me, yet this moment felt distinctly unique. In his gaze there lingered a depth, an intensity that spoke volumes. A surge of fear and confusion washed over me. This had transcended the realm of a mere friendly landlord's inquiry. It had evolved into something more complex, something I found myself ill-equipped to navigate. "I have no desire to create any discord between you and your husband," Mr. Harris continued, "but I can no longer pretend that I am not drawn to you. I simply had to express my feelings to you. Words eluded me. I parted my lips, yet the words eluded me. I found myself in a delicate position. The last thing I wished was to cause him pain. Yet I was equally reluctant to lead him to believe in possibilities that might never come to fruition. What course of action was I meant to take in this predicament? How can I convey to him that I am married and have no desire to engage in anything beyond my relationship with Ryan? At last I inhaled deeply, my heart racing within my chest. "Mr. Harris," I stated with conviction, "I appreciate your honesty, but I must be straightforward with you. While I respect your honesty, I believe it's important that our connection stays professional." A lengthy silence enveloped us, and I caught a glimpse of the disappointment that danced in his eyes. He cast his gaze upon his hands, then nodded with a measured deliberation. "I understand," he murmured softly. "Apologize if my actions caused you any discomfort. It was never my aim." I nodded, a wave of relief sweeping through me. The tension that once enveloped us appeared to fade. Yet it gave rise to an unsettling aftertaste that lingered in the air. A lingering sensation enveloped me. An undeniable certainty that nothing would return to its former state. Mr. Harris's emotions for me seemed destined to persist, regardless of my willingness to confront them. He rose to his feet and I mirrored his action. "Thank you for listening," he said, his voice gentle yet tinged, with a trace of melancholy. "I shall allow you to enjoy your evening in peace. I want you to understand that I hold your boundaries in high regard, Hannah. I simply wish to convey my feelings to you." I managed to conjure a smile, concealing the turmoil that continued to simmer within me. "Thank you, Mr. Harris," I expressed. "Until we meet again." As he stepped through the door, I lingered for a moment, gazing at the vacant spot he had just occupied. A tempest of thoughts swirled within me. It was beyond my comprehension, the events that had just unfolded. Though I was married to Ryan, I found myself engaged in a conversation with our landlord. What was happening? And why did it seem as though my entire existence was gradually coming apart at the seams? I shook my head, striving to cast aside the lingering doubts. I needed to concentrate on my life with Ryan, to recall the love and dedication that bound us together. Yet a persistent whisper within me suggested that this was only the beginning of something much larger. Following my discussion with Mr. Harris, I endeavored to banish the entire affair from my thoughts. I was determined to keep my relationship with Ryan intact, and I certainly had no desire to add any more complications with our landlord. Yet, despite my attempts to bury my emotions, they lingered, refusing to fade away. The weight of guilt and confusion hung in the air, leaving me in a perpetual state of second-guessing the encounter. Several days later, Mr. Harris made another unexpected appearance. A pang of anxiety gripped my heart as the sound of the doorbell echoed through the air, though I felt unprepared for yet another uncomfortable exchange. I understood that I must confront it directly. I pushed the door open, striving to maintain my poise. "Greetings, Hannah." He welcomed me, his tone both inviting and measured. I wanted to reach out and confirm that all remains well with the house. I inclined my head, mustering a smile. "All is well, Mr. Harris. I appreciate your inquiry." He appeared to pause momentarily before proceeding. "I've been reflecting deeply on my previous words. It was never my intention to cause you any discomfort. I acknowledge your limits, and I honor them. I simply felt the need to express what was on my mind." I gazed at him for an extended moment, sensing the gravity of the words he had uttered. I needed to assert myself at this moment. Uncertainty had no place here. "I appreciate your understanding," I responded, "but I must be explicit. I am united in marriage. My attention is devoted to my marriage with Ryan, and I must not permit any distractions to intrude. I appreciate the professional bond we share, but that is the extent of it." Mr. Harris's expression softened, yet a trace of melancholy lingered in his eyes. He nodded slowly, embracing my words with quiet acquiescence. "I understand," he murmured. Softly, "I apologize if I crossed any boundaries." I inhaled deeply, a wave of relief washing over me. "It's all right. I simply wish to confirm that we share a mutual understanding." With a subtle, respectful nod, he pivoted and made his exit. As he turned to leave, I lingered in the doorway, observing his retreat, a swirl of emotion stirring within me. A sense of melancholy washed over me, realizing it had come to this. Yet a flicker of gratitude emerged for having finally established the boundaries I so desperately needed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Ryan and I gathered around the dinner table, and in that moment I experienced a profound sense of presence that had eluded me for some time. The recent events lingered heavily upon my mind, yet I understood that I must press onward. My attention had to be directed towards what truly counted: my family, my unwavering commitment to Ryan, and the profound love that bound us together. "Is everything all right?" Ryan inquired, observing my unusual silence. I smiled, attempting to cast aside the persistent thoughts that clung to my mind. "Indeed, lost in contemplation. It's a pleasure to welcome you back home." He returned the smile, gently squeezing my hand. There's a comforting warmth in returning to the familiar embrace of home. In that instant, it dawned on me that despite the chaos and intricacies of human feelings, my focus was unmistakably defined. I felt compelled to safeguard the bond one. Shared with Ryan, I refused to allow anything or anyone to obstruct our path, and I was certain that, regardless of the challenges, we would navigate through it side by side.